coming home because you miss it is a good idea. However, planning definitely makes it easier for you to then stay. Making people understand just the service you're offering is a bit more difficult. But then there's also the challenges of internet, power, payments.
All right. No, thank you very much for joining me today. I know you are busy. You've got your own things going on, so I do appreciate your time. Spend time with me and for me to ask you questions and learn from you. Really. So I think I would like to start from the beginning of your journey. So maybe if you could tell me tell the audience what your name is and what you do.
So, Ezra, thank you so much for having me on your podcast, and thank you for your journey telling stories about Zimbabweans moving back. I'm really enjoying watching it. And for me, I am Samantha. I'm a virtual assistant living in Chitunguiza, Zimbabwe. And I've been here for about 3 years now. Well, it'll be 3 years in June.
Yeah.
What else can I tell you? I've been enjoying working online, exploring the country again. And that's it.
That is really good. I got excited because I grew up in Chitunguiza. So Unit B, which part of Chitunguiza are you?
I'm in Unit K, but my bus stop Paelo.
I can see it now. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, man. Yeah, it makes me want to be back home right now. So yeah, I appreciate that. Okay, Samantha, let's start from the beginning. Yeah. You spent a lot of time in South Africa, a lot of years in South Africa. I think you left Zimbabwe after 2008. Is that correct?
Yes, I left in 2008. Things were very difficult. Actually, remember just before I left, my company had moved to a new building, and we were kind of in like a merger situation. So when I got into this job, I was, because they already had a receptionist who knew more that was happening. So I felt displaced. I ended up having to leave because I ended up not having, I had a job, but I had no work to do because there was already someone else doing it, and she wanted to take over everything. So it was weird. And that's how I ended up moving. And the situation in Zim at that time was already difficult. So I couldn't find other work. I thought, let me try my luck in South Africa. And 14 days on arrival, I got a job.
You got a job. So what did you do? What kind of jobs did you do in South Africa?
So what happened was I actually went to this shop to photocopy my CV. And then they were like, oh, we're actually looking for someone. So I started at this place. It was a print shop, but they also did a Q4U service. So I was a consultant. So they had an internet cafe on one side where I would be assisting people to get on the internet back in the days when internet cafes were a thing. And then on the other side, there was the printing and laminating. So I also did that. And then the Q4U, I would book the clients. So they'll come with their passport applications, and then I'll book, and then I'll send the ladies to wait for them at Home Affairs. So that was the first job. Then I moved on to a lingerie store where we were selling, sexy underwear, sexy costumes, that type of thing. And I was there for a long time, actually. And we would be going to expos. I remember one time standing at the robot giving out flyers in a sexy cop outfit. I was looking for
wow, that's a sight to see.
I don't know, nobody knows here. I was looking for money. And then I've also worked in a feature store. I've worked for a marketing company. I've worked for a manufacturing company. But a lot of the roles either were admin or some sales of sort. I remember even working at a clothing store, but I didn't like it. I quit after 9 days.
Nice. Well, I guess that's the thing about having options, isn't it? Is if let's say, for example, if you were in Zimbabwe, if you stayed in Zimbabwe, the idea of quitting your job after 9 days is unheard of because there are no jobs for you to choose from. So, what was the one thing that you found in South Africa that, in terms of your work and kind of the culture, that was different for you?
I think one, like you're saying, having options, and the options gave me confidence. So when I was working in Zim, it was a short time though, but when I was working in Zim, it was like I have no choice. That's all I can do. And
The
also I
job.
noticed
Yeah.
that they have a lot more industries like this lingerie store. Up until I would say maybe 4 or 5 years ago, there wasn't anything else like it because we were also selling costumes. I remember we were doing Halloween rentals as well, going to expos. We were featured on Vuzu TV at some point. So there was always something new, something different. And like, yeah, there's the standard shop. You work in the shop or you work in an office or you've got your own side
Yeah.
business. And then these
Yeah.
options are not a lot. Yeah. So that's what I enjoyed, having the options, being able to work with different people. Usually in Zim, you're working with people you previously know. At one time I was working with my cousin and then I was working with his friend, so that type of thing. But here I was mixing up lots of different people, whites, Chinese, Africans, South Africans, Zulu, Xhosa, and all the different tribes. So that was
Yeah.
also interesting.
So you get exposed to a lot of different cultures and different backgrounds. That's really good. Okay. So in 2020, this is during the pandemic, you lost your job, and then you started on a new journey. You launched your own business as a virtual assistant professional, offering support to other people. Can you tell us more about that and how you came about that decision?
Yes. So, I used to have a blog before, and because I knew of it, but I didn't know how to make it work. And then when COVID happened, I was stuck. So, yes, I lost my job, but I can't go back home because we're in lockdown. But I need money for rent and food and whatever. So then I did a bit of research and I started posting on my social media, and that's how I got my first client. So then
Uh,
I was uploading pictures on the website. And because of previous experience that I had with my own blog, I was able to actually do this job for the client, uploading the images on their website. And that's what got me to build this business that I'm on. Because after that, I was able to get more clients. And I think by October of 2020, I had 4 clients. I was like, yes, okay, this is happening. Before I couldn't figure it out, but now I'm on a roll. I've got 4 clients active. I'm paying my rent. At that time, I wasn't yet earning more than my salary, but it happened,
mm,
I think, the
it
next
was
year.
something. Okay. So what were kind of the initial challenges for you going into that business? Is it something that you always wanted to do, to start your own business, or it was a matter of being in a situation then realizing, okay, I've got no choice, I have to look at other options instead of going to looking for a 9 to 5? Or was this something that was always in the pipeline?
I'd never really thought about having my own business, particularly because I found myself being an admin expert, right? And I already figured out that my role is a support role, and companies are always going to need someone in admin, whether it's a secretary, receptionist, bookkeeper, whatever, they're always going to need. So I never really thought about it as a business or that I personally could be in business. I always saw myself working behind someone else or in a company, whether it was a small company, but I was um, partnering with them. Then when this happened, I'm like, oh, okay, this could actually work. And when you're now, I think it's the red card theory, when you're now aware of those things, you start seeing other people doing it. Before, it was something that I'd seen in passing, like one person's blog, and I quickly forgot about it. But now it's like, oh, virtual savvy, this virtual assistant, that virtual assistant, oh, they are making money. They're making $3,000. I'm like, okay, I can do this for myself. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting because sometimes most people, when you get in a situation where you lose your job, I think a lot of people lost their jobs during the pandemic, and not everyone decided to go the way that you took. Sometimes it's just like sitting there and feeling sorry for yourself. So that mentality of saying, okay, yeah, this is where I am now. I have to look at other options, and you ended up with a business on your hands. That is amazing. So
Well,
how's the business
before we
going,
go
and
on,
where
wait,
are you now?
before I explain before I answer the question, the resilience comes from the fact that I've been that was the third retrenchment. That was the third retrenchment. I'd already been fired once. I had quit two jobs, and I had been asked to leave once. So I already
You've been asked to leave. You've been nicely asked to leave.
was asked to leave. I was asked to leave. So it was on the way. It was on the way to say I clearly am not designed to be working in companies, because most of especially being asked to leave, was because I wanted more from the situation, like especially even
Okay.
salary and whatever. But then
Yeah.
something happened. She found out I went for an interview, and she was like, "Well, you can just go."
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you thought I'll do it myself now. Let me just
Yes.
start my own thing. So how is that going, and where are you with that?
It will be 6 years in June, I think, or whatever, May, June. And I've been doing very well. I managed to actually get my own assistance in the last couple of years, depending on the projects and the capacity that I have. I'm looking to expand further. I've also started coaching other people to become virtual assistants. So that's the second branch of my business. And I would say it's going very well. I definitely see myself doing this for a longer time.
All right. So this is all happening in South Africa, but now you're no longer in South Africa. You're in Zimbabwe. So what happened? What was the transition like?
When I got the last job that I got fired from, the manufacturing one, we used to close in December. So I had 3 weeks of holiday every December. So from 2014, I'd been coming home. And then during COVID, I hadn't gone home that December. I think December 2019, I hadn't gone home. So I was able to go home the next year in 2021, somewhere along the way. But I was now a freelancer. So I took my computer, and I found the note. It was October 2021 when I actually wrote the note. I've been here for a week. I'm working online. Things are happening. I can actually do this. I can actually do this. I can be here. But the idea was actually to be a digital nomad. So I am flexible enough. I can because my computer is my office. I can pack my office and go and work from wherever. So when I saw that I was able to work on my mom's dining table, and I was able to participate in family things, I'm like, let me start working on this. And at that time, I had an old computer, basically a fridge. If the power is out, it's gone. So,
Fridge.
so that created the journey. That created the journey now for planning. For me to be able to move home, I need a working computer. But I didn't
Yeah.
have the money to just buy one immediately. So that helped me to start thinking about what are the other things I could be doing in terms of my business. What are the other resources I need to get? And that took me about 2 years of planning. Yeah.
So obviously you are in Zimbabwe now. You've been working as a virtual assistant helping businesses, and you've also have got your own people working for you now. And I think what we do here on this podcast is to try and help people who are in the diaspora, who are thinking of going back to Zimbabwe, to understand the journey, so that before they get onto the journey, they have a good understanding of what's involved. What does it actually really mean to relocate from one country to another? And especially
Mm.
if you've been away from your own country for a long time, what do I need to know? What do I need to understand before I make those decisions? So walk me through your decision of going. Obviously, you had lost your job in South Africa. You've been going back. So you lost your job. Before you lost your job, were you already thinking of going back home, or when you lost your job, that's when you decided, okay, I want to go back home? And what was the planning process like from the time you decided that you wanted to go?
Um, so before I lost my job, I wasn't thinking about relocating back, but I enjoyed the fact that I could come home for at least 3 weeks and be with my family at Christmas time, of which that's the best time to come home. Then when I lost my job, the question came up, but at that time I couldn't do anything about moving back. Then when I visited my mom as a freelancer, that's when I saw, oh, me being home is not actually a bad thing. It's not so difficult. I've got my family, I've got a place to stay, and I can work and run my business. So it only happened after losing the job, starting the business, and then randomly going home and be like, okay, this could work. This is something I can actually do. And so
Okay.
that's the journey I took. And then from that point, from that decision, I started looking at the things that I needed. So I needed a SIM card. I didn't have a SIM card.
So it's
I went,
simple
I
things
got a
isn't it,
SIM
that
card.
we forget. Mm.
I needed a bank account. So I went and I got. So that's why I'm saying it took me 2 years because I also needed to save money. Um, so that same job that I lost, I had got it back. I think almost 2 years later, I got that job back. So I was now working for them, but on my terms. So I was working as a consultant and I was working less hours. So I was finishing at 1 every day so that I could accommodate my clients from 2 in the afternoon and the rest of the days. So I needed also to figure out how then I would be able to do that job and keep my clients. So I put myself in a situation where I thought to myself, I've already been fired from this company. What if he says no? So I started saving basically the equivalent of 6 months emergency fund. I started watching videos from Zimbabwean content creators who either live in Zimbabwe, share information about Zimbabwe. So for me, what was important was budget. How am I going to sustain the life that I have in Zimbabwe?
Yeah.
I started following content creators who do the things I like. So, hiking, like Hike 263 was one of the ones that I added on my list. I forgot her name though. There was a lady who used to post restaurant reviews before WhatsApp family, that guy, before he was a trend. There were other people working. So I started following those people and making lists. Okay, when I go to Zim, I want to go to this restaurant. I want to go to this place. I want to try this. But the most important one was the Mr. Zim video. He did a whole budget and he said something, I think it was $600 or $800 for you to live comfortably, including going out. I'm like, yes, this is the one I want because he broke down the rent, the other expenses, but including going out. I'm like, I need to be able to sustain that life
Social
when I'm
side.
in Zim.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the things I did. But we can share those in the links for other viewers to
Yeah.
use them as their research
Yeah, no,
tools.
definitely. I can put the links in the description box below. So obviously that was your planning. You find out what's important to you, the things that you got used to doing
Um,
in South Africa, and start looking
yeah,
at, okay, can I still have that same or similar lifestyle when I go back to Zimbabwe? And one of the things from what you're saying that was important for you is the social aspect of
yes,
moving back to Zimbabwe. How are you going to continue socializing the way you kind of were socializing in South Africa? And I think it's something that can be easily overlooked by someone who's thinking about going back to Zimbabwe or back to any other African country. If you've been in a foreign land, you so it's important to think about those little things. You talked about getting a SIM card. It sounds so minor, but it's very big because you're gonna need to communicate and do transactions in Zimbabwe and things like that. So what did you learn about yourself through this journey that you didn't know that you're capable of? Or yeah, what did you learn?
um, I learned that adjusting is no longer a problem. Like it's not something so difficult. I'm now content that if I have to start all over again tomorrow, I can and I will because that is what needs to be done at that time. And that's allowed me the freedom to make certain decisions where I don't have to think too hard to say, okay, but I need this, I need that. Let's just make the decision and move on. It's fine. I will not break if I change where I live. I will not break if I change my job. So that really helped me to be confident in the decisions I make. It also helped me to just allow myself to be free. Like I'm just free now. I used to have a certain fear. I can't explain. I just have a certain fear. Even like I'm explaining about the planning process, there was some fear around it. Like I'm going back home. It's really it's not that active, but I had to plan. I created a buffer. So that has also taken away that fear, and also knowing that because I can research and plan for whatever comes my way, I don't actually need to be worried to say, what if it doesn't work out? I just need to take the steps, um, maybe be safe, protect myself if I can, but I don't need to worry that making that decision is going to be a bad decision. It's not. It will work out in whichever way it wants.
What would you tell someone who's thinking about living wherever they are now and to go back to their home country in Africa? What would you tell them? What are maybe a few things that you think these are mandatory things to do or to plan for?
So once they've made the decision, okay, I want to relocate, they should give themselves some time to prepare for that relocation. In as much as you're probably going home or to a country you've been to before, you've been out of that area for a while, so you will feel disconnected. I actually changed churches because I felt disconnected. So I would say visit the country of choice as often as possible, whether it's once a year or every 18 months, something like that, depending on how long you're planning. Start planning early. So consider your housing situation. How are you going to work when you're there? Because for me, in 2020, if I had a job, I would have moved in 2020, but I ended up moving in 2023. Lifestyle, what are the things you need? So if you've got kids, then you're going to be looking at school. Thankfully, I'm single. I don't have kids. I'm unattached. I'm literally just attached to my computer. So that made that decision much easier. Those are things that would affect you. Those are the things that would affect you, your life. Maybe your spiritual life. That's something to consider. I ended up having to change churches, and my old church that I used to go to when I lived here, I was now disconnected. So I had to look for another church, and I watched one online for a bit until I was settled. So, and then to research as thoroughly as you can. Obviously, we can't plan every down to the minor detail unless you're like me, you want to, but you need to have some level of research. What are the things you need? EcoCash. I didn't know how to use it because when I left, it wasn't a thing. And even in the times that I was visiting, I'll just be using the cash on hand. So I never needed to use it. Then I went to pay for something and they're like, oh, what's your number? Ding, 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 ding. And it worked. I'm like, oh, okay. And then they took the money. I got my items. In SA, I was swiping my card. I didn't have to think about it. Here now the cards work, but I'm not just used to EcoCash and actual cash. Another thing is if you are not a business person, right? Maybe you want to go home and do farming or have a shop or whatever. Try negotiating remote work with your current employer. Obviously, there's some things you need to put in place before those negotiations happen. Like maybe you need to have been delivering what needs to be delivered. You need to prove that you can work remotely. So maybe if you can maybe say, I'll work on Fridays at home in that current country, right? Just to prove, okay, I can work online doing my work. And then when you go to the boss, you can be like, no, I can go home and work. Or even maybe on your visit, you come on your visit during work times and you take your computer with you and you prove to your boss that you can do it. Another thing is to have something to look forward to in this country that you're going to. For me, it was checking out restaurants, it was exploring the country with a new eye, because when I lived here, I wasn't really looking at like tourist places as a tourist. I was just it's there, but it wasn't something I wanted to do. But now, because I'm coming back, I have something to look forward to. And these things, the looking forward to, those are the things that will help you. Like when you're here and things are a bit hard and you're sitting in the dark or whatever. You're like, but I came because of this, or I was able to hang out with my friend from high school that I missed, and I built my community.
Yeah. So there are positives, obviously, that you highlighted, and I'm sure, like when you arrived back and you say, "Okay, I'm back here now," there were things that you like, "Oh my God, did I make the right decision?" Or you were there any doubts? Were you worried about anything? Did you get scared about anything, or what was the feeling like when you actually then moved to Zimbabwe? Because obviously, planning, you're excited. You're excited about planning, but once the planning is done and you now in Zimbabwe, you're there. How did you feel?
So the fear came. I put my furniture on a truck. It took 21 days to arrive. And I was thinking, this guy has stolen my things. Oh my, because sometimes I would phone him, he's not
It's
answering. Oh
gone.
my God, this guy has stolen my things. And he was a Zimbabwean guy. So it's even worse. So now I'm putting this idea, they're worse. If I should have put my stuff on the bus, yes, it was a little bit more expensive. I should have put my stuff on the bus. I'm like, I don't have anything. But once the stuff arrived, I was able then to start setting up and things. Then at that time we had load shedding, extreme load shedding.
Yeah.
It was like 18
Yeah.
hours. But now I had my new computer, so I was fine. I wasn't worried about the power. But I've in that moment, I realized that, but I need something like, because I think it should run for like 5 hours or something. In those days, I was on social media, so I needed a social media manager. So I needed a lot of processing power. So it would probably finish, I think, 4 hours. So I've figured out that I needed to have a power station for my computer. And a month later, I went back to SA. But in that also allowed me to see, okay, what are the things that I need to make sure I always have? What are the things that I need to figure out how to get regularly? So for me, my comfort items, I love the brownies from Woolies. Okay. I will have them when I'm here. I love Nescafe coffee. My cosmetics, I still buy them from South Africa because also there's a tendency of fakes and I don't know, dupes or whatever they're called. And for me, I have a fear of maybe something will happen to my face
Yeah.
once I bought something from the tuck shop. So I still buy my cosmetics. I haven't closed off my SA contacts. I still enjoy going to SA. But now the going back to SA is less and less. When I came, my plan was I'll go every quarter. Nah. Last year I
No.
only went twice, you see, because now I'm getting more plugged in here. And my next trip, for me to plan this trip to go back to SA has been difficult. I'm like, I'm busy here, because I now have a life here.
Yeah. Okay. So many people talk about culture shock when they move to a different country. South Africa is a neighboring country to Zimbabwe, but they've got a different culture, the different way of living. And people talk a
Yes.
lot about that. But no one talks about the reverse culture when you then go back to your own country, the shock of it all. Because if you're away from your country for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and it's a different place to what you left it. How was it for you, and how did you deal with that?
Wow, that that was that was interesting. So I was gone for 15 years, even though I was coming regularly, you'd still not be quite plugged in. One thing I struggle with up to now is combis, public transport. In SA, we sit they see I'm still my mind is still there. They sit 3-3 in the taxi. In Zim, it's
Yeah.
four, and then the conductor with his whole body all over you. Uh,
All over you.
I'm from Stunza, so there's also Kaduma. The other people were sitting
Yeah.
Facebook looking at everyone in the taxi, right?
Mm.
That, but what I found annoyed me the most is people who eat in the combi. Oh, in SA they don't do that, right? However, the other side was the safety. When I came here, I immediately felt safe. So it was a different kind of shock. I got off at the bus stop at 9 o'clock. There's no lights. I just walked straight home. I didn't think about anything happening to me or whatever. I
Mm,
didn't worry. Even in town, you see people walking with their phones, but because I'm used to it, I quickly put my phone in my
it's
bag
just,
and whatever. But
yeah.
you can see that people are comfortable walking, holding their phones. Yes, some people get their wigs snatched here and there, but generally people are comfortable walking in town. It's a bit crowded though, CBD, like wow, but then it's the same
Yeah.
as Joburg CBD, crowded. But for me, it was a shock because when I left, Harare CBD never used to be packed like that. Like the cars, the traffic, the people. So there's some things that are like, they're just shocking, but they're not bad. It's just different. Yeah.
And yeah, it's just a matter of getting used to it, isn't it? Getting settled, and it becomes life as usual before you, yeah, before long. Um, the other thing that is driving people to think about going back to Africa is that just that sense of I'm in my country, I'm at home. I feel you
Mm.
talked about how you felt safe as soon as you go home. You were walking around, and so that's a big change. If you're coming from somewhere where you felt like okay, yeah, I'm not feeling that, um, and that drives a lot of people. And in terms of when you go home, you visit people for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks, and you feel that sense of pride that yeah, I am a Zimbabwean, I'm a Ghanaian, I'm Nigerian, and I'm in my own home, in my own country. Um,
Yes.
what would you say to people in terms of like that feeling and the dangers of making rash decisions because of that, that desire to be somewhere where you feel like you belong?
Um, Definitely coming home because you miss it is a good idea. However, planning definitely makes it easier for you to then stay. Because what I've noticed is when you stay in that feeling of, oh, I want to be with my family, but you're not really thinking it from a purposed decision, purposed side, you then have to you might end up going back very quickly. Like I mentioned, after a month, I went back to SA, but for me, it was just to make sure I got all my comfort items. Now, imagine if you hadn't planned at all, right? You just went. That would mean once you felt any pressure or any unease, you would immediately go back. So what you want to do is, yes, you're proud, you're happy to be with your family, you're happy to be in your country, but you want to also be proud to stay, and you need
Yeah,
to remember that the countries are different. South Africa is different. Zimbabwe is different. UK is different. So being patient with yourself. Okay, give yourself, because sometimes I'm like, why are these people like this? Why? But then they have their way of doing things. In a sense, I'm the one who's pushing into this space, right? I'm the one who's been out of touch with the country, who's been away, and I've learned other things. Yes, there are other ways to do things, but this is not what is being done here. So give yourself grace and be patient, and remember that it took you a while to settle where you are now. It took you a while to be settled there. It's gonna take you a while to settle back, even if it's home.
yeah, yeah. That is true, and I hope people will be listening and taking this on board because planning is important, and you have to have a strategic vision, like in terms of like how you are going to manage simple things, everyday life, even businesses. So obviously, you are still working with companies which are abroad, which are not in Zimbabwe. Have you had any experience of dealing with or doing business in Zimbabwe and how it is? Because a lot of people are thinking, okay, I'm going back to Zimbabwe. I want to start my own business. What are the challenges?
Um, so in term one, for starters, my style of business in itself is working online. I was speaking to a fellow virtual assistant who's in Zim, and she was saying that making people understand just the service you're offering is a bit more difficult. But then there's also the challenges of internet. There's also the challenges of power, payments. So I had another side business where I was offering this loans to businesses, right? To small businesses in Zimbabwe. Yo, were they not the most difficult clients? There were only two. There were only two. But wow, that was very difficult. So in terms of working with Zimbabweans, I found that I didn't understand how like payment terms worked. In SA, I would invoice my client, they pay me, and then I did the work. I managed to negotiate that side well. But in Zim, because I was working with clients that were working with government and big companies, they were getting paid 60 days, 90 days, and whatever. So that frustrated me. And in the meantime, I've decided right now I won't be working with Zimbabweans until I actually know until I get to understand how the business works.
The
So
system.
this
Yeah.
goes back to my point about giving yourself grace and being patient. I've been here almost 3 years, but I'm still learning. I'm still adjusting to certain things because obviously it would be nice to work with your fellow countrymen. It would be nice to offer services to people you have a bond with or a connection with on a deeper level. Though because I'm a virtual assistant, I can work with anybody as long as I like them. Really.
Okay. That is good. So, are there any opportunities for like virtual assistants positions in Zimbabwe, or the work that you get is from abroad?
There are opportunities. It will probably take a little bit longer to secure that work, but there are opportunities and there are platforms like I think Zimworks is one that I found, and I recently got added into a group for remote workers in Zim. So the opportunities are there. You obviously have to do the work. In my case, I was fortunate enough that like my first client was somebody I knew previously because of my blog. Then my fourth client was somebody who referred 5 people to me. So that that helped me to stay in business. So now if when it comes to actually looking for work, that's a different beast.
The other thing that got my attention is from our conversation, even before we started recording a few days ago, we talked, and you mentioned your social life. You seem to be like you like your social life. What's the social life like in Zimbabwe? What do you do? Where do you go?
Oh,
What are the things that
it's
you like to
happening.
do?
It's happening. Like next month end, I'm going to Unplugged. Um, sometimes I've also joined Hike 263 for hikes. I've joined Silent Book Club. I'm also in another book club where then we have meetups and we discuss the books. So far we've had 2 meetups. One we had a vision board session, and then the other one was just discussing our goals, and we're talking over cake and coffee, and we're gonna have a game night. And then I also go to Wisdom City International, so they've got a full program, right? So on Fridays I'm going for prayer, and then there's the women's events, then there's the singles events, then they also have master classes for business people. I'm also in there.
Okay.
So that's why
Yeah.
I'm always out. And then I
These.
joined a business membership for business women. So they opened a chapter for business women in Zimbabwe. So I'm also now part of that. And they also have their own events where they're teaching and helping other women to grow in business. I'm also part of a mentorship cohort that also just started. So that one is new. We had one session so far. So I've been busy. Yes, it's social, but it's also business. So I'm not just going out there having fun,
Network.
getting drunk, but I'm also networking. I'm also building my business and in a fun way. I'm all about the fun. When
Yeah.
I was writing my fitness blog, is to just look for fun exercises. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's really good. Obviously, you have to network. You get to know people, and that's part of reintegrating into the society, isn't it? You have to put yourself out there. No
Yes.
one is going to come and knock at your door. Oh, by the way, you came back. How are you? Yeah, people will do initially the first few days, but if you really want to, have those long-lasting relationships and friendships, you have to go out there and put yourself out there. Which is the
Yes.
same, even like when you move to a foreign country. You need to put yourself out there to to know and understand what's happening in the in the society, and make friends and things like that. Until you actually take the steps to do it yourself,
Yes.
it's not going to happen. So for you, it's actually important, isn't it? Because if you're back into the country, the more you put yourself out there, the more you understand, the more you meet people, and whenever you meet people, it's an opportunity to learn. So that
Mm.
is something that I think a lot of people in the diaspora would need to understand and know, that networking is one of the most important things when you're thinking about reintegrating into the
Yes.
into whatever society you want to go into, and into the country. So yeah, no, thank you very much. That's really good to know, and
Mm.
I'm really happy to see, positive results for some people who have been abroad and they've come back into their home country, and they've managed to find a way to settle in and build themselves up, and live a life. Because
Mm.
everyone, that's what we are wishing for. That one day I'll be able to go back, and I'll set myself up in a way that I'm comfortable. And you talked about how you have not bent the bridges from where you're coming from. You can still reach out to people where you're
Yes.
coming. In South Africa, you can still go back there. But the main thing is you are back home. You feel safe. You feel happy
Mm.
because you've done the planning and
Yes.
you did everything that needs to be done. So there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to take away. Is there anything else that I've not asked that you think will help those who are in the diaspora, who are thinking, are in their planning phase of going back to their countries?
I think more on an encouragement side, to say if
Hmm.
this is something you want to do, whether it's going back to Zim or moving to any other African country, just definitely do it, but do it with a plan. Give yourself grace, give yourself time. Like there's no rush. Obviously, figuring out the things that are important to you and what you would want to carry with you or make sure you want to have to make the transition easier. So for me, I took a bit too long in terms of building my social circles. And now I'm reaping the benefits because I'm now actively doing it. But maybe if I'd done it a lot sooner, I would have probably been more settled than I am now. Like it would have taken me less time to settle in. So allow yourself to explore, allow yourself to interact with other people you've never met, join groups, for people relocating, watch videos for people who are already in the country or people who have moved back to see their experiences as well. Like I remember just after I moved, I found a YouTuber, Lauren Tapiwa, who had just moved. And I enjoyed seeing her, Jen, because I'm like, oh, she's feeling what I'm feeling and she's doing some of the things I'm doing. And then there were a few things that came up that I hadn't thought about. Just, oh, I should do this. And so go on that journey, not just with yourself, but involve other people, even if there are people online. You can even send them a message and be like, oh, I saw you moved. What was your experience? And then they can help you. Usually people will post online. They're free to give that information. The only thing is
Yeah,
you
yeah,
need to reach out. So
you
take
have
the
to.
time, do
Yeah.
the research and get comfortable with asking people for help.
Okay, perfect. No, that's amazing. Thank you very much, Samantha. And there's a lot of takeaways here. And for those who are listening, and if you are really thinking about going back to your home country, wherever that is, there's a lot to learn. Do your planning, have a vision board. I think that will help a lot, and start connecting with people whilst you are where you are. You don't have to be on the ground to start connecting with people. Connect with people, and when you travel, going back to the country, you need to have that mentality that you learn. You don't, it's not just going to for pleasure and socializing. It's about learning.
Yes.
Open up your mind and learn a lot of things, like how to reintegrate into the communities, how the businesses are being run, uh, whatever sector that you're interested in. Take some time to really do your research and talk to people, get connected to the people in those sectors, and that from your journey, Samantha. I think that's what you have been doing. Just trying to reestablish yourself into Zimbabwe, into the Zimbabwean community, and it looks like it's working out for you. And I hope a lot of people will follow this and will have success as well. So, one last question for you before we go.
Okay.
Any regrets?
Ezra, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. Because sometimes I regret that I moved, to the SA. Sometimes I do regret that it was like such a long time that it was gone. Sometimes I think maybe if I'd gone to a different country, I would have a different outcome. But overall, they're not things that cause me not to sleep. They're just things that sometimes in conversation they come up like, oh, maybe I could have done things differently. Maybe I could have done this. But I've been saying this to myself for the last, I think, 3 weeks. Things are as they should be. Things are as they should be. That's
Definitely.
what it is. It is as it should be. Yeah. So I'm content and I'm happy. I do notice that relocation, especially out, affects women. Okay, affected me on the relationship side. Let me not speak for other people, I don't know. But it affected me on the relationship side. But because I was single, I was just able to get up and go,
Yeah.
It had its advantage. I was able to just relocate and go. So, I don't know. Do I have regrets? I can't really say.
No. Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. I mean, it's fine not to have regrets, and I think it's good. It just shows like where you are and how content you are with where things are. And I like that idea that things are the way they should be. That's a very, very positive way of looking at life. Things might not be working out for you at the time, but that's how it's supposed to be. There's a lot to learn when things are not going well. It's not always about what's happening to me. It's always like, okay, so what is this situation trying to teach me? What can I learn from this situation? Exactly. And for you, you might regret maybe going to South Africa, but you needed that to learn and be who you are today. So you needed that exposure. And now you are your own woman and you're doing what you're doing. Probably if you had not gone and traveled that journey, you wouldn't have that mindset that you have today. So, we are where we are. I like that. I'm gonna end on that. Now, thank you very much, Samantha. I appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll continue to communicate and work together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ezra, for having me on your podcast. This was a great show, and I look forward to seeing it and seeing the rest of your videos that come up.
Thank you very much. Thank you.